Tim's group and for Joseph's group. And of course for Mrs. Tamara Aiden's group. So, first of all, we're gonna go to our hotel, and which is called Liège Strasbourg. It's very centrally located, and you will have some time to refresh yourself, and then we will already start to explore the city and go to Montmartre, which is the highest point in Paris, from where you will have a beautiful view. Our driver.
All these are so important.
They're very close to the hotel. We are very lucky with the weather because this morning it was very cold and it was raining. So you brought some nice Californian weather with you. With their own kind of town hall.
So that's something makes sense. We need a picture of McDonald's.
What?
Well, that it has some impact, but it's. I don't think they have closed off any streets yet. This is more or less normal in the morning, I think. Well, we're all in it. Anyhow, so these are the typical 19th century building that we call Haussmannian buildings. They always have shops and restaurants, banks, whatever services you can imagine on the first floor, right? And then on top of that, you always have 5 floors of apartments. Live on the 6th floor, no elevator. That's how you keep in shape. Look. Now, the most asked for floor in these buildings was always the 2nd. We talk about the ground floor, the 1st and the 2nd here. You would call it the 3rd, I think. The 3rd floor, that is high enough to get away from the dirt and the dust and the noise from the street, but not too many stairs to climb. So that's where the richest people wanted to live, of course. They could, those who could afford it. And that is also the reason why it's always on that floor. That's the floor that we call étage noble in French, the noble floor. And since it was there that the richest people used to live, it's always big piazza, and that is quite nice to come to in the afternoon, because that is the favorite hangout for street entertainers in Paris. All kinds of entertainers come there and perform, and people gather around. Years ago, he is left-wing, he is a socialist, the first socialist mayor of Paris since 1909, and he's also openly gay. That is what we have left of the old royal medieval fortress in Paris. That is where the French kings used to live in the 1100s and 1200s. That building, which we call La Conciergerie, is mostly famous for something else, though, or notorious, I would say. It was used as a prison during the French. We go and see the cathedral first. On my tours, we always do culture first, you see, and then shopping if we have time for it. Is that there? Okay. Okay. Anyhow, we're going to see now where we're going to be dropped. And once we get to a standstill, you're going to have to be quickly off the bus. And then you come with me, of course.
là, il y a la limite, on va monter, on va aller à l'Italie. Et après, à la limite...
Because you see, when these churches were built, most people could not read and write. But if they wanted to look
You're going in.
we're such a
Me persiguieron.
Nos movieron.
All I see is taking pictures and everything.
Où est-il? Où est-il?
Oh, why is it fucking shaking?
You know what? One of the I sent you the house on the book.
Oh look, Anna, where are you? Where's Anna? Anna! There's one with two bars. That's nice. That's like Tell them if they haven't paid just to get out. Tell them to get out.
You should also know that the river is the lifeline in Paris. It's along the river that we have most of the beautiful buildings. All these beautiful buildings and the bridges, they are lit up at night. That's why we call Paris the city of lights. Therefore, it's a good idea to go on a boat trip on the river, preferably in the night. That is something beautiful. This building we have to our left here now, that is the Money Palace. That's where the French money used to be made. Nowadays, it's a coin and medal museum. And now very soon on your left, across the river, the big building complex on the other side of the river, that is the Louvre. Now, you all know the Louvre as an art museum, of course. But originally, the Louvre was the palace of the French kings inside Paris. Well, it started in the Middle Ages. The city limit was actually right where we're standing now. This is where the city walls ended, around the year 1200. And then there was the only area we don't do in a sightseeing tour in Paris is Montmartre. But you were there yesterday, weren't you? And you're staying there, so that's handy for you. You can easily go up to the hill and see the view and the Sacré-Cœur and the artists and all that. Now in the Louvre you have all the old arts from 1800 and up till 1850, but nothing from later periods. I told you that we had the 20th century in the Pompidou Center, but there is actually a museum in between these two. Higher now to your left there is the Orsay Museum, a former train station. That is where we have the arts from the second half of the 19th century in this building. That is where you find the famous Impressionists, for instance Monet, Renoir, Degas, etc. This is actually one of the best museums we have. Very popular also, usually quite a long line in front of it. And the beautiful building here with the dome is the House of the Legion of Honor. The Legion of Honor, which is the most prestigious one part of our parliament. And in front of that we have the French flag normally and the one of the European Union, but today also the British flag, as you can see. All in Paris. Bridge Alexander III, built for the big World Fair held here in the year 1900. Alexander III, who gave his name to this bridge, wasn't French though. He was the second last Russian Tsar. Isn't this something? Now this is a favorite hangout for fashion photographers. You can have so many beautiful backgrounds here. And the bridge itself was also a technical masterpiece when it was built, because it spans the whole river without any pillars underneath. Her flag all over. Down to your left, there is a big building complex in the distance that we're going to drive up to. That is the Invalid Hotel. That is a funny name, in a way. Well, you see, Louis XIV, of whom we're going to speak a lot tomorrow, since we're going to go to his palace, right? He was a 40 years now. So most of the Invalid Hotel has actually become the biggest military museum in the world. That is a place you can go if you want to see arms and armors and flags and uniforms from all times up to World War II. For instance, the armors of the French kings, and they are magnificent. And as we come closer to the building, you're going to see that everything in the decoration up here has something to do with military life also. There will be cannons and cannonballs. Himself, Louis XIV, sitting on his horse, and on each side of the entrance back there sits Mars and Minerva. That's the god and goddess of war. On the little pavilions on each side of the gate you have the emblems of the king, the sun, and the coat of arms of the French monarchy with the 3 lilies. And then there is a moat all around this, a dry moat, because since this was built outside the capital, Paris wasn't that big yet, it had to be fortified. Later in the fence to your left you're going to see his most famous sculpture. It's called the Thinker. Yeah, it's itself. That dome was re-gilded for the bicentennial of the French Revolution in 1989, and can you imagine, they used no less than 25 pounds of 22 karat gold leaf to do this. So what you have up on that roof is a layer of almost pure gold. You can all imagine that cost a fortune.